So hi, this is a video blog that I'm putting together. I got a lot of friends who have different, know me from different parts of my life and may not know the whole story of who I am or where I came from or any of that. So that may make it kind of interesting for people to see where they fit into my life. This is the first of a series. Hopefully it'll be interesting enough. I'm just going to do a general overview of where I came from and up to recent events. And so I began in Fresno. Well, really, I began in San Bernardino County, but we moved to Fresno when I was a couple of years old. So I really grew up in Fresno and in the middle of the San Joaquin Valley in California, of course. And uh, so, youngest of four kids. Mom and dad met at the University of Tennessee. Mom was she was a home ec major back when it was a Bachelor of Science, and she was in Army ROTC. I think she met Dad somewhere, and they were both in ROTC at the same time. Mom was originally from Mississippi, and Dad was from West Virginia, and he was a hard worker and kind of brought himself out of the hills of West Virginia and the poverty back there. And I think his dad was a pharmacist back when they used to mix up their own potions and make their own pills. And my mom from a southern family in Mississippi, and just wonderful family, wonderful mom. Just couldn't have been better. Let's see. Dad and Mom moved out from I think they were in Tennessee for a while, and they moved out to San Bernardino County, and they had two kids at that point, and then Dolly was born, I think, in Redlands as well, and then I was born, and we moved to Fresno a couple of years later, and let's see. Overall, great childhood. Did a lot of fun things. Went to Gibson Elementary. Went to Tenaya Junior High. Went to Bullard High School. Go Knights. Class of 1976, bicentennial year. There we go. Let's see. Lots of friends. Lots of fun stuff growing up. I was in Cub Scouts. I played Little League Baseball. I played soccer. I was involved in church. And when it came to soccer, the one thing that I remember, in addition to all the fun that I had, and was that in the wintertime in Fresno, there's this thing called Tule fog, which is really thick fog that you can't really see through. And I can remember days when we were playing where you were kicking the ball toward your goal, but you couldn't see the goal because the fog was so thick. And as far as baseball went, I was a marginal, maybe above average player at best. I pitched a little bit. Didn't have a particularly strong arm. I was kind of a meatball pitcher, really. But I had a pretty good curveball, and occasionally got to throw that. But really enjoyed baseball. That was probably my favorite sport. Eventually played, I was on a golf team in high school for a very short period of time, and played, I think, JV tennis at Bullard. Everybody was so good there that I couldn't stay on the team as varsity. As most of you would know about me, I started playing the banjo when I was 9 years old, and continued playing and taking lessons up through the rest of my life, really. I started playing on the tenor banjo, and then eventually moved to the plectrum banjo to do more solo work. I played in banjo bands. the Fresno Banjo Philharmonic Society, led by Phil Shara. Always suspected that he called it the Philharmonic Society because his name was Phil. But anyway, and then I also played with Fresno Banjo Band and those characters. So just had so much fun doing that growing up. I played banjo at a Shakey's Pizza Parlor with a very talented piano player named Manny Aragon, and we would go and play in the middle of the San Fernando Valley we get free pizza and tips, and we'd go Saturdays we'd play, and Sundays we'd play. Saturdays the softball players would come in, and Sunday the Hispanic families would come in, and we would play Mexican music for hours and hours, and it was great. And Manny knew all the songs, and he taught me them, and we just had a great time. Let's see. Grew up in the church, as I mentioned. Went to Westminster Presbyterian Church, and eventually got involved in summer camps at Calvin Crest and Westminster Woods, different camps up north, and that was great. I got involved in a Christian fraternity when I was at UCLA, Alpha Gamma Omega, also known as the Fraternity for Eternity. Strong the ties that bind together, men with hearts so true. Made lots of good friends both in the fraternity and outside. When I was in college, had great roommates, Steve Lawson and I'm blanking on the other one, but we had great roommates, and a lot of good friendships came from that. I began at UCLA with an ROTC scholarship. I think it was probably one of the only reasons that my parents maybe let me move away to school. But I realized pretty quickly that I was not. It just was not cut out to be in the military at that time. It was post-Vietnam. There wasn't a war going on, and I just felt like I needed to go another direction. So as much as I liked the military, I decided to opt out of that program, which I was able to do. And then I also began school at UCLA at as an engineering major. I was thinking about becoming a biomedical engineer, and quickly realized that the level of intellect and hard work and understanding of science and chemistry in particular was beyond what I was able to do. So I eventually became a religious studies major, and actually kind of almost double majored in psychology. I took every psychology course I could take except statistics. I just didn't. I heard statistics were very hard at the time, and I didn't want to take it, so I didn't take it, and I didn't double major. But nonetheless, I did eventually get back to that. Let's see. After college, I worked I worked a couple jobs, but then eventually got into the aerospace industry and worked there for a decade. First at Rockwell International, and then later at Hughes Aircraft across the street at their radar division, and then eventually went to McDonnell Douglas, where all the companies would pay for your the furthering of your education, graduate school and such, if it was job related. But McDonnell Douglas at the time was willing to pay for it even if it wasn't job related, and so I took the opportunity and went back to school in psychology, and got my master's from Pepperdine University in clinical psychology with an emphasis in marriage and family therapy, and took all those classes in the evenings at satellite campuses, and was able to punch that out in about 3 years, and then became an intern. I of course eventually got licensed as a marriage and family therapist. Now at some point during my internship when I was living in Southern California, I met the love of my life, Gina, and I realized that I didn't want to start a private practice or raise a family, for that matter, in Southern California, and so I discussed it with Gina, and she had always wanted to move up the coast as well, and so we came up the coast and found jobs and places to live, and lived in San Luis Obispo for a while, and I was working as an intern in Grover Beach, and she was working for a computer company selling computers, and so we lived up on the Central Coast for a number of years, and still do. And so eventually we got married after a what Gina would probably consider a very prolonged period of dating. But we eventually got married, and of course had two kids, Ben and Danielle, and just they're all the best. There's nothing better than having a family, and